Okay. Overhead and prescribed expenses are an interesting bunch here. As we said, you can do the proxy election based on wages, and there's that funny wage calculation of salary base and whatnot. Or you can actually allocate your R&D overhead expenses. The rules are kind of complicated. The rate is reduced. It's down to 55% instead of 65% for 2014 plus. But basically, and we've talked about all these limits, basically the chart I look at, and this is that Canada Revenue Agency document from one of their policy papers, is the proxy amount covers basically these expenditures. And this is an easy way to think of it. A reasonable portion of office supplies, equipment, utilities, supporting staff wages. So if I can say, well, 8% of my total wages are R&D, so I think 8% of my overheads are R&D, that may be reasonable. I've been in these arguments before. Guy in Ottawa, I remember Phil Feely, he said, well, Dave, in many cases that might be reasonable, but take a scenario where we got 8 staff, 4 software staff who make $250,000 a year each that are pure R&D, and 4 admin staff who make $50,000 a year and use exactly the same space and are non-R&D. So that would not be reasonable. I thought, wow, that's interesting point of view, right? So again, what's reasonable is like a snowflake. You have to look at your fact scenario and then see how it applies there, right? He said in that case, square footage might make more sense. Yes?
The list is not exhaustive with proxy amount coverage. Also, if you claim traditional, you get the employer's portion of the I and CPP. I believe you get rent.
Yeah, you basically get all of the expenses related to maintaining the administrative side of things, shipping, receipt, all that, a reasonable portion of that. And it's determining what's that proportion. That's where the art is. And there's no right or right. All it says is it's got to be reasonable. And that's your only parameter and directive, so it can be a lot of fun.
When you get audited, the calculations are onerous.
Yeah, there's certain expenses that they basically say aren't in, so you can't claim those for the overhead allocation.
I just had a question about that.
Yes.
So, so I understand that like legal and audit, or say your costs, like consulting costs for SR&ED would not be considered overhead for the traditional?
Well, even that's got a case where a client went in and they tried to claim the consulting costs for SR&ED preparation. And what the court said was that the cost to do the technical part was in and the cost to do the financial part was out because it was a legal or accounting fee, whereas the technical part was not a legal or accounting fee.
But I just mean like...
Again, like I say, it's kind of a gray area, so I
can understand it for, say, traditional amount, but say for proxy, when you're doing the proxy, like if you're doing a CAT calculation,
yes.
Proxy, legal or audit,
I don't, you know what, I used to think that the prescribed came out, but when I reviewed that legislation within the last year, I don't think that you have to pull them out for the proxy cap.
Okay.
But you would not get to claim them under traditional. You couldn't claim any of those. Okay? Okay. The other things are, obviously if you sold the materials, it wasn't consumed in R&D, that's got to come out. And rent for a building. Okay? So any kind of building you don't want to claim.